Hello and welcome to the Eye Opener Society. This is Brittany, and I am here to interview your two lovely your two lovely hosts of Eye Opener Society, Gary and newly joining Lizzie.
Hey
Hi.
everyone, how's everybody doing? It's Gary here, of course, and I got my new host. I don't even call her a co-host anymore. She is host of Eye Opener Society, Lizzie. And Brittany, thank you for taking over the show here.
Yes, thanks for having me back. Lizzie, how are you today?
Doing pretty well. Super excited to be here. So glad to meet you. Got to hear about you from earlier this week.
Yes, it's always a joy to join Gary and be able to be a part of this podcast and its journey. So, um, I know Lizzie, you're new. I listened to your very first podcast where Gary had introduced you, um, and I understand you both met from TikTok. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had just made my TikTok and started connecting with people and immediately found Gary and he's like a podcast.
So, Gary, was this something that I know you're starting to change your platforms more towards TikTok? Was this something when you were on TikTok, promoting the show that you noticed, Lizzie? Was it something that just popped up in your like For You page? Um,
Yeah, I got onto TikTok just for the second time. The first time I had no idea about it, and I didn't like having a platform across all these platforms because it took up all my time. But since I'm shying away from Facebook more and more, TikTok was really doing well and blowing up for me. So I was just doing little videos and dropping the Eye Opener Society name there. And yeah, across my feed, I remember there was one video where I seen Lizzie and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty interesting. Not a big deal. But then she came back again. There was another video that popped up in a feed and I was like, wow, she's really got something to say. And I found myself like just drawn to not just the fact that she's got good content that she was talking about. She's got this amazing energy that it is one of those things where you actually feel. I mean, she's way across, in the Midwest, and I'm all over here on the East, but I just felt like, wow, there's something about Lizzie. I said, this is really amazing. And I was looking to try and get someone to work with me on the show. So I just reached out to her and we started talking, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, guess what? You're going to be host of Eye Opener Society.
and Lizzie, are you newer to TikTok, or is that something that when you saw Gary or when you saw the Eye Opener Society page, was it something that resonated with you and drew you in?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd only been on TikTok for 2 months and I get a lot of messages to join people's groups, mostly the Illuminati right now. Not sure if that's a scam or not. But for Eye Opener Society, that sounded pretty cool. We got on the phone and chatted. He had a really nice energy. I could tell we just have similar but very, very different perspectives. So I thought that that would be fun. And I tried to do a podcast back in the day, but I just was like not prepared to get on the air. You know what I mean? And so I was excited. It had been in my mind to maybe do it again here soon. So it was just kind of like perfect cascade. And then I listened to a couple of the episodes and just loved all of the other people that I'd heard. And so I was just excited to be a part of it.
My when I came on when I was first introduced, it was very kind of similar to your experience. I listened to one episode and it drew me in. Like it was just like a black hole essentially. I was sucked right in and it resonated with me. So I think it's interesting because you both are newer to TikTok and how that connection was made, especially, not having your paths cross until that point and then finding that friendship that you guys have. So, Gary, are you starting to get used to TikTok now? Are you liking it?
Yeah, because I was blowing up on YouTube, and then all of a sudden, YouTube, because I mentioned one thing about water and its accessibility, and why are we forced to pay for it? All of a sudden, I was going from like 10,000 views down to like 2 views. So they started shadow banning me. I said that figures, that go figure. So, but TikTok, I got what took me 5 years to get to 30,000 views on YouTube took me only less than a month on TikTok. And people are a little bit more freer to express themselves on TikTok. So that's why I kind of like. And since Facebook shadow bans you no matter what you talk about, I figured TikTok is going to work. And the fact that I met Lizzie, an interesting little backstory too for both of you, actually, because I haven't really mentioned it to the audience because I know I put it up on Facebook. I actually have two co-hosts that I was going to do for, Eye Opener Society. I was going to do two episodes with Lizzie, and then I had this girl Danielle too as well. As soon as I spoke with Danielle, same thing, had an amazing connection. The only problem is she was, and it was really good. She lived very close behind me, so she could have actually came in the studio and all that, kind of like I wish I could do with Lizzie. But we decided never to get in the same room together because we'll open up wormholes together with all of our energy. But Danielle was in the process of moving out of state. So she moved, like, I met her on like on a Monday and she moved that Friday. And so I don't know what the future holds with that because I haven't heard back from her and I'm just backing away because obviously that's a huge change for anybody. So, I don't think they're ready to start talking about a podcast episode yet. So in the future, maybe, I would like to. I think she has something else as well. And I think it would be great. Maybe like myself, Lizzie, Danielle could do a show, all three of us together. I mean, there's so many ideas, but right now, Lizzie's got all the energy in the world, and so she could occupy all that space.
Yeah. I just moved, but I like to live life on the wild side. So here I am. I think I've done two since I moved.
Yeah, you
So it's
have.
like, oh, hey, like, let's just add some more, you know, just, well, this is a welcome and pleasant distraction that reminds me and grounds me, which just saying that, listening to the first podcast that you and Lizzie did together, Lizzie mentioned about feelings and that they're in you and just how she likes to learn about them. And I was sitting there and I was just like, wow, it's so true. And they drive feelings and energy drive people in different ways. So again, I felt myself being pulled back into the podcast with Lizzie's energy, even though I had never talked to her or met her until today. So I think it's
Oh,
going. Sorry.
thank No, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pop in on a podcast. I
We
just
just
think
go with the flow.
it's
Yeah. So I think it's definitely interesting how everything has kind of worked out and has how the direction of everything has shifted in a positive way. The change, Gary, you can't stay stagnant forever. Change is a welcome thing. Sometimes they say if it's broke, don't fix it, but this brings in a whole different light and it's definitely drawn me back in more and wanting me to be more active with listening to everything. So, we'll shift a little, and I know I just touched on this, but Lizzie, in the very first episode, um, you were kind of talking about how you got into the energy readings and the things that you're doing. And I know Gary knows how to read energy well, so I think that's why you two have connected so well. But what drew you in? Was it a person? Was it a place? What is a thing? I know you said around 2019 is when you really started getting into it. What was it that led you on that start of that journey?
Well, it was just kind of like a beautiful moment. I just gone out of massage school, and so they do a little bit of energy work there. And then now I was working at a massage studio, so I was surrounded by other energy workers. A lot of them were doing different things like Reiki, but it was really exciting because previously, even though I'd been attempting to do these things for a while, I was the only one. And so you don't get a lot of feedback, don't get a lot of practice on other people. And so when all of a sudden there was a bunch of people who were super excited to just like trade skills and experiment with each other, it just kind of blossomed from there.
Kind of like this podcast is going to blossom. You two are going to grow together because I think Gary has a lot to offer with knowledge and wisdom and just life experiences, and then you obviously have your energy. You're good with reading people's energy, so I think this is going to be blossoming into something awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
very different energies. I think it's gonna be fun. I
yeah.
laughed at a couple of our episodes so far. They're fun to listen to.
Oh, they're really fun. I think that's what I love. And I know or Gary, you're shifting here. But I think not only are they fun, but you can always take away something from one of the podcasts. And even with like your most recent one, the introduction one, I took something away from that. That's what I love so much because a lot of podcasts you read or you listen to, there's some you're just like, this isn't. But this one, immediately you're drawn in and immediately, whether it's within the first 5 minutes or the last, 5 minutes, you're pulling something out of it that you can apply to your daily life. And I love that raw realness of the show. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's kind of what I go for. I know there's always a shift, and I love to break the rules because when it always came to podcasting, they always say consistency is key. Consistency is key, but consistency to me is boring as fuck. So I want to change things up every now and then. And unfortunately, when it comes to people, like I had Jennifer Miller sitting in, she done a wonderful job, when Hannah couldn't be here. And, she had so much to lend to as well. So yeah, I think you do take away something from a podcast because not only do you have my perspectives, but you have the perspectives of somebody else, and we don't always have to be on the same page. I know we're not on the same page, like Lizzie and I, as far as like, I see myself more as the focused, in the moment, person where Lizzie is Lizzie. She's got such an amount of energy and I just love it. But even though we're not exactly the same, we share so much together. And like she didn't talk to me today, and I actually was like, you know what? I actually miss her, And I like to, I didn't just gain another host for the show. I gained a good friend on this.
well, that leads me. How would you? I know you said she's, the happy and the go lucky, but how would you describe her personality when she's doing the podcast? Because you obviously get to have a bit of a deeper connection with her outside of the podcast, but on air, how would you explain her personality?
Well, Lizzie, well, on our first episode, right before we got on, she did a little bit of energy work with me, which I thought was pretty, cool. And it gave me an idea. Like, even though the last two episodes we didn't do, that was time constraints. But I told her before we go on air, it would be great to do a little energy work with each other, and it kind of fires you up a little bit. But Lizzie's energy, uh, she is the universe. She can expand her mind way out into the universe to the point it's so scattered. And then she could bring it all into this tiny little quantum physics little kind of world and then blow it right back up. And I think that's the personality that she has. And that's the personality I'm actually working off of because I find it exciting. I like watching how other people describe themselves, talk about things they're passionate about. And Lizzie has that. It may seem scattered, but she could be so grand, in a grand scale. And then boom, she focuses down, concentrates on one thing. But when I watch her, I could see how it affects her. And each, thought is actually taking over her. And I can actually physically see this. And I'm playing off of that energy. So that's the way I describe Lizzie.
All right.
Well,
And
that actually made me feel very seen. Thank you.
I think you did hit I in the first episode, and when I was watching you guys and how you were interacting with the cameras, I think that brings a whole new perspective as well because it used to be just voices. Now you actually have faces too to see and actions and how people um, think through things and work through things when you're on air. And I resonated with Lizzie because one point she wanted to ask something and she's like, I just drew a blank. And then you could see it literally come back into her and she's like, oh, I remember. And then she started to go into it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one. I think, Gary, I've probably, talked to you sometimes where I'm like, squirrel. oh wait, gotta go back. So like definitely I love that about you, Lizzie. And I think that just from the little bit that I've got to learn, it's accurate. So, and Lizzie, on the other hand, how would you describe Gary's personality and how he is as a person?
That's funny. I would almost say the very opposite, which is part of why I think the podcast is gonna flow so nicely, is because he's just so very grounded and logical, and he just kind of like looks at the whole thing and then just like can express it. And so like he said, I'm all over the place and I'm just like praying that it makes sense to the other person. And he's like, yep, and this is what she said. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness that made sense.
I love that. Grounded. That is exact. Yes.
Yeah, so like
Yes.
his tone and everything, his energy, it's just very like smooth, you know?
Oh yeah. Trust me, there are some times where I come to Gary and I'm just like, I'm all worked up, and then by the time I leave, I'm like, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And even just today, like it was a busy, chaotic day, and I'm sure you guys could both tell, in the beginning I was just kind of a little strung tight, and now I'm just relaxed, and I love that about Gary, that grounded. I love that. Good, nice description, Lizzie. So, is there is there anything that we maybe didn't touch about that when we were talking through, maybe we didn't get to touch on at that point that either one of you want to talk through?
You good there,
No.
Lizzie, or do you want me to take this one?
No, you go ahead.
All right. Yeah, no, we touched on like I say, with the energy work that Lizzie and I would on our first episode, episode 101. And then I think because we didn't do that and we recorded back-to-back episodes, I could tell Lizzie was slightly disconnected from it. And she was having a tough time getting her thoughts together, which is perfect because that's such a human response, you know? And I felt that and I was able to bring her out of it. And because, like she said, sometimes, because it happens to me too, because this is always unedited, unscripted. So I'll sit here and I'm envisioning words going into my brain and I'm like, I'm hoping it makes sense. So in that case, I'm a lot like you, Lizzie. It's just sometimes I'm like, did that make sense? Should I have worded it differently? But it's too late. We're not editing anything. So I get it. But it helps because that's when listening skills, start to take over. Like I could hear all the words and as scattered as they may be, I get what she's saying and I could condense it, into a much smaller spot, I guess, to help her out. But, and that's not anything negative against Lizzie. Lizzie's, is her own self, and that's why I find it so beautiful about her. She is able to express herself in her own way. And I am hoping that there's going to be more listeners coming in to see, or hear from Lizzie as well, because yeah, that's just the direction I like to go. Like I said, fuck the consistency. I'm going to do this podcast. It's going to be our show. And that's the way it's going to be. And I'm going to have a good time doing it. And I'm hoping Lizzie's in it for the long haul, which I'm pretty sure she is from everything she had said. Yeah, she's going to be here. And I'm going to really appreciate that and appreciate having it. Just like I appreciate you, Brittany. I appreciate you stepping up and, handling the show like this.
Oh, listen, I love, call me crazy, but I just love to interview. So this is always a joy and so much fun for me. So, like, I like to learn about people. I like to learn about who they are as a person. And I know we didn't dive into this, but like backgrounds, because everybody has their own story. Everybody's gone through something. So I like to hear that. And sometimes when you listen to somebody's story, you can see how it's shaped that person in a way. So I'm I'm excited to listen to you guys in the future and see where this goes. So thank you for allowing me to come on and interview both of you and kind of get to know both of you better. It helped me, and I'm hoping it helps the listeners as well. And then if anybody does have any questions, Gary, I'm sure they could drop them on TikTok, and then we can maybe have a part two. So,
Yeah. Find us on TikTok, find us on Facebook. I mean, we're across all platforms, so just search Eye Opener Society. We come up all over the place. That's a good thing. At least I got the SEO is working after all these years. We're on all platforms, and that's great. And just in closing here, like you said about learning about people and all, what's going to be a lot of fun is I do have some ideas for that since Lizzie and I are still in that, get to know each other stage, basically. A lot of that is going to reflect in the podcast. And yeah, there's going to be things she's going to learn about me. There's things I'm going to learn about her. And I think that's going to reflect in a couple future episodes. I have some ideas. I always have ideas going. But you're right, it is learning. And I'm enjoying it because it's all fresh, new, and exciting to me as well. And what I like about Lizzie, I think every time I talk to her, there's always going to be something new to learn about with her. So, and that's why I don't want to go too deep yet because I want to save that. This way, every time we talk, every time we collaborate, there's going to be something there. And, I mean, I know I'm making it sound like a big love fest over here, but Lizzie, you've been wonderful so far. And thank you. You breathed a whole new life into, the show as well as me. And I can't appreciate that enough.
Well, thank you. And I promise I won't always be this scattered. I mean, it is kind of my natural tendency, so to some degree for always. But you also, we started recording this kind of at an interesting time in my life as I'm, shifting everything over. So that's made it a little bit extra dramatic on that one.
Well, you do you, and you always be you. All right. That's the most important thing. That goes for you too, Brittany. You know that. I always teach you. Just be you. I mean, screw somebody if they don't like you. Everybody's got their own personality. Everybody's got, something about them. And I appreciate everybody's contributions, no matter what it is. And you two right now, thank you both. I really appreciate everything.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany. It was so nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on with us.
yes, thank you for having me. And like I said, feel free. I would love to do like a follow episode or a part two, like me invite myself back because I just love it so much. So,
Well,
but
I agree. So.
Yeah, we'll have you back. Don't worry, Brittany. I mean, what's great is sometimes it's difficult for like a podcast host to host a show with certain topics or certain ideas. I'd rather give the idea to you and then you take it and do what you will with it. So don't worry, you'll be back. And look, I got this sun right on my face. It's so cool. Look at that. So yeah, just to mention real quick, yeah, we're on TikTok. We are on Facebook. We are also now on BitChute as well. I haven't checked it very recently. It's just another place I'm putting the episodes up, and we're also still on YouTube. So if you want to see the sunlight that's hitting my face, you can check us out. But if you just want to listen to the audio, we're on every single platform there is. I'm pretty sure, unless there's new ones out there. But I want to thank you both again and again and again. Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, Brittany, for doing this. You're the best.
yes, thank you.